Alright, I would like to address the public of Clayton, New Mexico. Okay. My name is Chris Mize. I attended the last superintendent's meeting yesterday, and there are some concerns that I think the public in general should be worried about. Mainly, it's the lack of responsibility, the lack of security within our school district. Um, Yesterday, before the school meeting, early in the day, I spoke with the superintendent. And I asked her directly about having cops on our school campus to investigate crimes that happen on campus or that happen within the students, like my kids getting jumped, bullying, certain issues that are relevant to my concern as a parent and to the public's concern, to in general, to all children. She pretty much said she rather, instead of having the cops investigate and having the kids have a record, she preferred not to have the cops deal with it, which leads to many concerns. Recently, with that Florida school shooting, the school had the same policy. They did not allow the cops on campus. They didn't let the cops investigate, document certain cases that happened on campus. So many things that could have been red flags or could have helped intervene with that situation was never documented or reported to the police department or the sheriff's department, just like here. So it's a blackout. It's a complete blackout. The school wants to govern itself, or the school district, I should say. They want to govern themselves, keep the law enforcement off campus. But when it comes down to the school shootings, who's the ones they call? The cops, the law enforcement. They come on campus with guns, armed, ready to shoot whoever they deem a threat, which could be potentially a harmless kid picking up a gun or a weapon that an assailant, threw down and was trying to take it to the cops, and they could have got shot thinking that they too were a perpetrator. Now, so I mean, potentially there could be a lot of hazard with not dealing with the situation beforehand, because ultimately the cops are going to come on campus if there's a crime. A shooting or something severe, or even like there was a threat a few days ago, and the cops came on campus. They searched every locker, which is good. But why hasn't this ever been implemented before this crap started? This should have been done ages ago. She's more worried about the kids having a record, a juvie record. I'll tell you what, I'd rather have, if my kids were acting up, if my kids were a potential threat, I'd rather have documentation with the law enforcement. That way, it will prevent them or any other kids from becoming a potential threat. Now, I have not been too public about this. I have given the school the benefit of the doubt, let them resolve issues that has happened with my children. Last school year, early in 2017, one of my sons got got beat up on the school bus by 4 individuals. It was a blackout. They didn't want to work with the police department, sheriff's department. They just didn't want to do nothing. They didn't, they want to do it internally, keep it out of the police's hands. No. I reported it to the cops. They ended up getting charged, but it was not because they wanted to cooperate. The school didn't want to cooperate, and ultimately that makes them responsible in my eyes for their wrongdoing. Their mindset, the way they treat these kids, or lack of treatment of these kids, make the kids think they could get away with things, and they do so many times. Now, those 4 individuals were charged. They have juvie records, or they may be clean. I mean, I don't know what the the local juvenile JPO has done with them as with the records, but there's at least a documentation somewhere of what they did within the local law enforcement or within the local legal system. So if they end up becoming a threat or doing something further, there's documentation to back up why they should be punished and why they should be watched more closely, counseling, whatever the case may be. That should happen in every case. If there's bullying, one of my other sons got bullied by some kid who was drinking, and they're, junior high, middle school kids drinking alcohol. The family were friends of mine, but the kid was out of control. I reported bullying 3-4 times to the principal. Only after the 4th time and under threat of legal action did that kid get suspended, schedule changed so he's not with my child, and punished. And when I reported to the police department, the cop straight told me the superintendent would not allow them on campus to talk to staff who witnessed it, talk to the students, or any student witnesses. It was going to be undocumented. But I convinced the sheriff's department. Now, the police department couldn't do much about it. They didn't want to spend too much time on it since they were pretty much blackballed by the school district. I don't blame them. They're busy in this town. But the sheriff's department picked it up. And a sheriff's deputy went and talked to the student. Off campus, of course. At his home. And he convinced him to talk to him. And he admitted it. He admitted what he did wrong. Now, this kid already is on probation. He did some bad things with an older brother who was put in prison for a short time, or jail, whatever the case may be. And so, there's already documentation on this kid. And this child could become or could be a potential threat. And without documentation, how can anybody in the future look at this kid and say, oh, he never did anything wrong? Or, they would say, well, did he ever do anything wrong? Well, documentation says no, so he will get away with whatever. If there's documentation, they can say, oh, he's done this. He's done bullying, drinking, he was on probation. That's the stuff people need to see. That's the stuff the law needs to see to be able to take actions against either an adult or a juvenile who becomes an adult during school time. Now, some kids graduate, like I graduated at the age of 17, so I was a minor when I graduated. Many people who graduate are 18 or 19. Now, a lot of times juvie records disappear when people turn 18. They shouldn't until they're out of high school. Because, yes, high school is a difficult time. People grow up in high school. There's a lot of immaturity. But once you're an adult, if you're still in school, are you really an adult? You're not independent. You're not working. Or if you are working, you're not supporting yourself because you're probably at home with your parents still. You're probably not having to support yourself, work full time. You're a student. How mature can you be when you're a student and you're not supporting yourself? Responsibility comes to people, or they should be responsible, yes, when they're 18. But how responsible can someone be when they're in school? Their mindset, if a child, like this gentleman in Florida, I don't condone a thing he did. I think he's the devil. I think he should, die in prison or be sentenced to death. It's up to the state of Florida to determine that. But if he was in high school and he's 19 years old and still a senior, well, most people graduate when they're 17 or 18 at the oldest. So if he's 19, that right there should show a red flag. Because number one, to be 19 and be a senior, he either probably got held back for disciplinary reasons, being in juvenile hall, you skip a year and then you have to redo a year a lot of times, or he was held back for mental reasons or emotional reasons. There's an obvious sign why he was 19 years old and still in high school. So, I mean, that's a concern right there. Why wasn't that pointed out? Why hasn't anyone talked about his age and the fact that he's still in high school? You know, I don't think adults, anyone who is 18 and still in high school, be considered an adult. And yes, they should not be able to buy a gun when they're in high school. Now, when you're 19 or when you're 18 but you already graduated, that's a different story. Because if someone from the age of 18 to 21 doesn't have access to guns, they could be shot, killed, and not be able to defend themselves at their home while they're, so someone needs to have home defense. Anyone at the age of 18, if they're on their own, to 21 needs to have home defense. That's why I'm against the 21 law. But, we need to have documentation on all these students. We need to have documentation for many reasons. And we need to have communication between the superintendent, the school system, and all aspects. Open communication from the teachers, the principal, all the staff, to investigating officers, either sheriff's department, police department, federal agencies, CPS, whatever the case is. Whoever is investigating or monitoring these kids off campus needs to do it on campus. They need to have full access to these students, to these people. If not, there's a breakdown in the system, like what happened in Florida. There's a complete breakdown. Who's to blame? Oh, he's blaming him. They're blaming them. FBI is blaming the sheriff's department. Sheriff's department is blaming the FBI. The community's blaming guns. Most of the communities blaming the FBI, sheriff's department, police department, CPS, the whole 9 yards. Okay, it's everybody's freaking fault this happened. There was a complete shit breakdown of the whole system. Why is that? How can that be allowed? We are the United States of America. We are supposed to be the leading country for safety, integrity. We're prideful people, but we cannot be ignorant. We cannot be blatantly ignorant and ignore what's obvious. Now, people want to say mental issues. Mental issues covers so many different issues. There's PTSD, there's bipolar, there's schizophrenic, which is, I think, is the most dangerous with bipolar. Then there's, depression, anxiety from abuse as a child or whatever the case may be. Drug use. There's many issues that could be labeled under mental illness. Now, what's PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's a reaction in the mind to traumatic experiences throughout someone's life. I suffer from PTSD. I'm not a threat. I own a firearm. I've owned a firearm for years. I've never shot no one. I have never pointed a gun at anyone. I have never intended to use it to cause any harm, and I never will. But if someone breaks in my house at night or tries breaking through my door and an intruder steps foot in my house, yeah, I'm going to use it to defend my home, which is my constitutional right. Many people want to say, yeah, there are some people who suffer from PTSD who also suffer from other issues, either related to PTSD or other substantial issues in their life that has nothing to do with PTSD. Only documentation of incidences, violence, criminal activity, that's a good leading, stepping point to get someone to deem them a threat, a potential threat. Now, I do have a record. I used to drink, self-medicate with drinking. I never did drugs. Well, I smoked some marijuana, but I never did meth, cocaine, anything like that. I drank a lot, and I smoked a little marijuana. Now, when I was drinking, I was violent, and I was an asshole. I admit it. I was a prick. I don't drink no more. Or I drink very rarely. But I don't drink to be, I don't drink to medicate myself. Yeah, I was in jail. I've done a little bit of jail here and there. I was, I said some shit when I was drunk. I don't remember it, but I admit I done wrong. Am I a threat now? No. So people do change. People can be a threat at one time and not be a threat later in their lives. It all depends on that person, which is scary because anybody could be that way. Anyone. Someone could have a bad day at work. Someone could lose their job. Someone's family could die and lose their job, and they just go through a downward spiral. And the most humane, innocent, perfect person could become so tormented in their soul and in their mind from tragedy in life, they break. They emotionally break. They have no emotional attachments to anybody or anything, and they just go on a killing spree. Because if they're suffering so bad and it's not fair to them, they want to spread that suffering. That's what happens a lot of times with some of these people. They break mentally. So you can't always look ahead and see who's going to become a threat. You can only hope no one is, but be aware of those around you and aware of what people's been through and what they're thinking at that time. Now, if I would be doing this video spewing hatred, spewing I'm going to do this or do that, obviously I would be deemed a threat and should be dealt with, or at least talked to, investigated. But I'm not a threat. I'm not intending to do any harm to nobody. I want no harm to come to anyone, especially my own children. We as a society need to decide what mental illnesses are threatening immediately. Now, schizophrenic, obviously that's one. I think everybody could agree. We can't take that lightly. They are unpredictable. They go through ups and downs on a daily basis. Extreme up and down. Not just like, oh, I'm sad, I'm happy in one day. Oh, I'm violent, and oh, I'm just crazy, and then they become laughing. There's people who are extremely crazy, and those should be red flag. Those should be like, okay, yeah, we need to really watch this person. Then you got people who have your occasional issues. Are they a threat or are they not? Okay, how bad is he a threat or she a threat? Is this enough threat to take away their constitutional right? Most time, no. And until that person has a breakdown and does something either violent or aggressive, there's no legal action the law could take. And now, it's not the law's fault. It's not nobody's fault. It's that individual's fault and those who are around that individual. Because if there's a breakdown in that person's mind, there's a breakdown in their life. No friends, no family, wherever the case may be. Now, I don't have many friends. I trust hardly anybody because everybody's a backstabbing bastards. But I have my wife, I have my 5 kids, and I'll do anything I can to make sure that they live a good life. I'm friendly with everybody. I always see everybody as friends, as friendly people. Unless someone shows hatred towards me, I don't show hatred towards anybody. I'm a very open, direct person. If I have an issue, I'm going to tell you. I've talked to many people, and they know how I am. I'm just a very direct. I talk to the chief of police. I've talked to the sheriff's department many times. I'm a very direct individual, and if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. It's my First Amendment, my constitutional right. But, it's with mental illnesses, we don't want people saying, oh, he has a mental illness. Check. Nope, he can never buy a gun. We need to investigate, what mental illnesses, are a direct, immediate threat to themselves, others. If they haven't shown an immediate threat to themselves or others, there's nothing the law could do. There really isn't. It's difficult, because nobody truly knows what someone's thinking until that person expresses their views, opinions, or just blurts out hatred. whatever it could be. So we need to really think back, see what we could do to make places safer. Now with the airports, we've gotten tight security, courthouses, of course, every law official, government buildings, they got very tight security or a lot of people looking out for threats. With schools, there is none. Or some, like I know there's some in Harlem and in certain cities where there's a lot of gang violence and stuff. They do metal detectors, backpack checks, stuff like that, but that's because they have shootings all the time, but it's gang related. It's not mass shootings or for the issues like that guy in Florida. But we need to really get down to cooperation between the law enforcement agencies, the school district. This crap about not letting the police department, sheriff's department, any law officials on campus to investigate crimes is bullshit. If the current superintendent does not want to make the school safe, she needs to go. The 4-member board, well, there's 5 members, one's absent. She moved, but the 4-member board did not pass her for her to be for her contract to be reinstated for next year. And unless she changes, I don't think her contract should ever be reinstated. Unless she's willing to do whatever it takes to make our kids safe, which is including working directly with the law enforcement, I don't think she should be there. I don't think any superintendent should be there that is not for the safety and welfare of our kids. That is utmost, the most important thing with her job. Security, safety for our children. And she has proven to me from past instances with my own children, she cannot be trusted to investigate and deal with these kids herself or within the school system, because the police department and the sheriff's department ultimately still got involved with around the school system off campus. But if those families were to did a complete wall and not communicate, there would not have ever been any investigations. There would have never been anything done. No treatment for the kids, probation, whatever the case may be. No documentation, no proof of anything. And that's concerning that these kids could get away with shit by not saying nothing absolutely at all. But luckily, one out of the 4 who jumped my son on the bus, she was extremely apologetic, open and honest, wrote a letter apologizing to my son, admitting exactly what she said, admitting what exactly she did, which lined up exactly with what my son said. And she witnessed and admitted what the other individuals did. And if it wasn't for that, everyone would have been calling my son a liar, would have been calling me a liar. Nothing would have ever been investigated or nothing would have ever been done. So if it wasn't for that one good student out of the 4, not saying she's perfect, no one's perfect, but I forgive her, I forgive her family, I forgive the other 3 because, well, I'm sorry, I forgive 2 others because they eventually admitted wrong, they apologized, and I'm grateful for that. But one individual still will not apologize, and which is concerning, because that individual, in my eyes, now could be a potential threat in the future to other students, to other kids who are around that individual. And that individual, if it wasn't for me taking the hard stance I do, not giving up on the issue, there probably wouldn't be no documentation on the individual for future issues that individual has. Now, that individual herself has issues. She, I'm not sure exactly what her issues are, but from my understanding is she is not fully capable of I guess, understanding what she did is wrong. She laughed about it. She was still laughing about it the last time I saw her when we were trying to do an intervention courtroom thing. So, I mean, that student is a threat in my eyes. You know, I'm not going to do nothing against her. I'm not going to attack her or nothing like that. But I'm going to see to it that that student is documented, which she has been through the JPO, and that student needs to be watched for future occurrence of crime, harm to others, and you know, counseling might be appropriate for that person, whatever the case may be. I'll let the courts decide for that, but at least there's a court record. There's something there for intervention. You know, and the other girls, there's documentation and stuff, but they were apologetic, which is good. You know, I think the other three that were individual that were involved in that incident with my son, I don't think the other three are going to become any potential threat. They apologize. They're sympathetic. They, you know, they realize what they did was wrong, and I don't believe they'll ever do it again. But that one scares me. She's not good. So, I mean, we need to get this shit under control. This is a small town. We don't have many people here compared to million population cities like where I'm originally from. I moved here to get away from the violence. I moved to 1,100 miles to get away from California and all their liberal politic bullshit that has destroyed California. Crime is rampant. Nobody investigates crap. They don't let police investigate shit. And everything gets, you know, everybody gets away with everything in California. And I didn't want no more part of it. And I didn't want my kids raised up in that. I moved here for a better life, for a better opportunity for my kids. And I'm going to see to it that they get that opportunity without being beat up on buses, without being bullied in school, harassed. You know, I got, out of my 5 kids, 3 of them has autism or within the autism spectrum. So I got 3 kids I got constantly worried about being picked on, bullied on, teased, harassed for their disability. It's not an easy thing to deal with for them. They don't understand it. When someone says, hey, you have autism, someone who doesn't know about it or can't comprehend what it is, it's confusing to them. Yeah, you know, my son knows he has autism, but we teach him not to use it as a crutch. It's not an excuse for nothing. He's still responsible for his own actions. He is. And he knows right from wrong, because I've taught him right from wrong. You know, he still gets punished just like any other kid. He stands against the wall for 10 minutes if he does something wrong. He gets disciplined. He gets electronics taken away. No TV time. You know, just like any normal kid. There is nothing wrong with disciplining or teaching disabled children. Just because they're disabled and they have autism or any other issue, many of them still comprehend punishment. They comprehend right from wrong. You know, it may take them couple extra years to comprehend it, but they still know. Now, my oldest son, if he ever becomes violent towards anyone else, he'll do the time. He'll get the punishment he deserves for his crime. I'm not going to let his autism slow him down. I'm not going to let him be seen as a threat because of his autism, because he's not a threat. He's not violent to no one. Yeah, occasionally he has fights with his brothers or arguments, pushes his brothers. Siblings. What siblings don't do that? I fought with my brother my whole childhood. It happens. Shit happens. Kids are kids. But they're only kids to a point. You know, siblings' reaction is different than peer reaction. Because all my kids act different at home than they do at school, because at home, they're comfortable, they're relaxed. At school, they're professional to the point of they go to school, they listen to the staff, they listen to the teachers, they respect everybody. They don't bully people. They defend each other. They have gotten in trouble for defending each other, which I'm against, but I understand, you know. There was an incident where my neighbor's boy was kissing up on my daughter, trying to hug and kiss on her. You know, he was about the same age as my daughter. Well, my 4 boys, who are the older, pretty much pushed that kid away or blocked him from getting to my daughter, their sister. And after a few days, that boy kept doing it, and they pushed him pretty hard to make the point, stay away from her, quit trying to kiss her. That's wrong. And he went home crying. The cops got called. Well, the cops came, investigated, and the cops agreed. Stop having that boy kissing on the girl, and there'll be no issue with the Mize boys. Everybody knows that. You do not harass my daughter. My boys will defend the sister from anybody. That's what they're raised to do, and that's the right thing to do. I'm not apologizing for it. I think they did the right thing. And so does the law enforcement. They did the right thing. They will keep doing it. But they do not harm others just for fun. They defend themselves, and they defend their family, their siblings, especially their younger ones. There is nothing wrong with that. Self-defense is also a right. You have the right to defend yourself. We just need to get down to, as a society, and say enough is enough. Clayton, New Mexico needs to stop the hypocrisy, stop the liberal agendas, the fear of discipline of our children, and start monitoring what our school systems are doing with our children. Our children are the future, and without our children, there is no future. We need to truly think about this. We need to let the law enforcement investigate and document every incident of physical contact or bullying that happens. Now, if there happens to be, a kid in, say, kindergarten or first grade, a kid took a pencil so the other kid hit him for it, or something like that, that's not bullying. That shouldn't be dealt with the cops. But if there's someone who's constantly taking stuff from someone, say, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th grade, someone constantly stealing stuff from other students, picking on them, pushing them every day, hitting them, yeah, it needs to be documented. There needs to be something there just saying, okay, watch them in the future, watch her in the future, And if there's a repetition of documentation where it shows that that individual's done it 2, 3, 4 times, and if there's no correction, it could become a bigger issue. But if there's immediate correction, say counseling, whatever the case may be, and that student stops that actions, then therefore it worked. If the student doesn't stop the actions, then further actions need to be taken to that student and to correct their actions or stop them from harming other students. Placement out of the school, new school, whatever the case may be. Whatever needs to be done needs to be done. It needs to be done forthwith before any harm comes to any other students. Now, another issue. Okay, so I covered number 1, guns are a Second Amendment right. They'll never be gone. We're going to have to deal with it. I'm a Second Amendment supporter. They'll never leave. Guns are always going to be here. Freedom of speech will always be here. But without the Second Amendment, there's no way to defend our freedom of speech or tyranny. We as society need to step up our game and deal with the threats as they are, where they are, and that's at the schools. That's where it starts. So I think we, as a community, need to come together. We need to decide what's the superintendent doing for our students. Now, there was a board member who she blatantly attacked or pointed out at last night's meeting, and it was live on YouTube, so the whole world could see, not just Clayton, but the whole world. And she was going after a board member who sent a letter out asking how she was doing on her job as a superintendent, if people were happy with her as a superintendent, to the staff of these schools. I think that's a good thing. There should be a check and balance system with every employee, public employee, especially those who serve our kids. If they don't have something in place to double check the standards of the people who the board hired to run our school system, What's the board for? What does the school board do if they don't check up on those they hire? The superintendent. The superintendent is answerable to the people. We elect the school board to run this, to deal with this. So I want to say thank you to that individual in the school board who did do that, because I think you're doing the right thing. I think there should always be a check and balance system with anybody who we elect or we have running any public system, especially the schools that deal with kids. And if that individual thinks she's all high and mighty and thinks she's above being questioned, and how dare someone question her ways or her authority, she is, that person would be considered extremely ignorant and yeah, oblivious to the fact that she needs to answer to what's going on in the schools. Everybody who works there does. And the staff there is great. I'll give you that. I love the teachers there. The teachers are extremely great people. The principals. All the principals, all the current principals, I know them all. I've spoke with them all. Many of them, most of them except for the newest one, has known me for a while. I've always respected them. They've always done a great job with my kids, dealing with their disabilities, dealing with their needs. Their teaching needs, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's great. They're great schools. I really like them. I could talk to them. They talk back. You know, we could conversate. They don't get mad when I raise my voice out of frustration. You know, that's what we parents do. We get frustrated. Everybody does. And when we express our views, we shouldn't be judged for it. We should not be judged for when we get frustrated if our kids are getting picked on, bullied on, either by some staff who doesn't like us. And occasionally there are teachers or coaches or staff who doesn't like some of the parents or some of the families that the students are related to. You know, it happens, you know, especially in a small town like this. It's small town politics. Welcome to Clayton. You know, and I don't want to blast the names out there, but there is an individual who was banned from campuses for, well, I understand it to be, yeah, he probably raised his voice. He got aggravated because his son was punished by a coach, and he wasn't too happy about it, and he was trying to express his views about it. And I think he has his right to do that. Supposedly, there was some physical contact of some sort, nature, or something that the school deemed a threat. But when it came down to court, the court threw it out because there was no evidence, there was nothing there, but yet he's still banned from the school grounds, anything to do with the school. So he can't go to any functions to be with his kids, watch them play sports, you know, concerts, the whole 9 yards. He completely banned from everything. I think that's wrong. You know, he didn't threaten anybody. The principal that was involved in that is no longer there. So what's the issue with that? You know, it seems like the superintendent has a grudge on that individual. You know, the coach is still there. You know, I like the coach. I like the coach's wife. They're good people in my eyes. But everyone makes mistakes. I think it's time to let that shit go. Let the parents be involved in their children's life like they should be. If a parent wants to be involved in their life and they get emotional about it, who doesn't? The only people who don't get emotional or upset or frustrated when their kids are being improperly punished, or they want to question why their kids are being punished. If parents don't care, if parents don't question that, they probably don't give a shit about their kids, which means they're not doing their job as a parent. Why don't you let parents, be involved, let them question you. You know, I question everything I see wrong. I point out everything I see wrong. It's my right as a parent. My property taxes, especially with the school bond lately, that put millions of dollars onto us taxpayers, my property taxes are paying for the upgrades to the school, the salaries, help pays the salaries of all the staff, And all of us homeowners, all of us parents are paying into this. We have a right to say stuff. We have a right to our views and our opinions. We have a right to voice it. They can't. If you get mad about it, why? What's the point? Do you have something to hide? Are you afraid of the truth coming out? Is that why you're so mad? Because the truth's coming out? You know? Or do you have a personal issue with this person from years ago when you were kids? You know, whatever the case may be, that's between you and the individual, but that's not a school issue. Blowing shit out of proportion and getting someone banned from school campuses is wrong when they're trying to be involved in their kid's life. Because when there's an absent parent, shit happens. When there's a parent who doesn't care, shit happens. The kid becomes violent. They become aggressive. They become a bully. Stuff like that. This individual is trying to be the best parent he could be. And I applaud him for it. It's a great thing that how he is. He's trying to be a good parent. He's old school. Many of us are here. Republicans are. We're old school people. We believe in tradition, values, and we believe in voicing our concern, you know. So I think this current head administration, the superintendent, needs to either correct these situations, correct her outlook. She needs to be humble for the position she has, because not everybody has a great position in life like she does, or gets paid good money by taxpayer money for doing what she does. You know, she needs to have a better outlook on life. She needs to be humble. Everybody who is employed publicly should be humble for the position and the opportunity they have in this life, because not everybody has opportunity. Not everybody grows up being able to go to college, being able to succeed in certain fields in life. You know, you shouldn't have such a big head over things. You should be humble about it. Anyways, I've ranted on for a while. I'm getting cotton mouth. And yeah. I'm happy with the staff, I'm happy with the schools, but I'm unsatisfied with the current leadership. Because it's going down the path that could cause harm to our students, and I don't like it. Thank you.